from scratch, and at that age, 55 I was at the time, starting from scratch wasn't necessarily very appealing. So I decided to change my thinking, and I changed everything I was doing. And over the last 5 or 6 years, I've managed to build one of my businesses. In fact, that's why security business that I was mentioning. I have somebody running that business now, and I only work 5 hours a week in it.
That's fabulous. I mean, getting to the point where you have someone working in the business and doing everything for you, and then you spending that 5 hours just overseeing and making sure everything's happening the way it needs to happen.
Well, actually, I don't have to make sure it needs to happen at all, because he does that. He's just fantastic, so I'm very fortunate that way. I'm a consultant.
Right.
So I do a lot more work because we get tenders and that sort of thing. So
right.
we had to finish 2 last week, and both he and I are working quite hard on those.
Okay.
But apart from that, he pretty much runs it. So it pays my wages, pays my bills, and I can pretty much do it from anywhere in the world if I want.
Fantastic. And that's that's how you want a business to run, isn't it?
That's what I got into business for all those years ago.
Yes.
So I guess the story really is that I've turned that around in the last 5 or 6 years.
Right. After all the struggles and things that you've had, you've managed to turn that around to work the way you've always envisioned it to work.
Yes.
Your vision.
Yes, and so probably the things what's important, because people ask me, well, what did you do differently? And so the first thing I did was I went out and I did a lot of courses. Over the last 5 or 6 years, I've done heaps of courses, and in fact, I'm still doing a few at the moment. I became, I've done
a course junkie.
Yes, it's pretty much. Well, I've done many courses and business courses over the years, but over the last 5 or 6, I just really ramped that up.
Right.
Some really great ones. Well, Key Person of Influence was one of the courses
yep.
I did, which is I can highly recommend to anybody. A really great course with Daniel Priestley and Glenn Carlson. And I also did a lot of networking. I networked like a fiend. Went to lots of different networking events, which is something I didn't like.
The purpose of your networking was what?
Well, a few things. Probably to connect with other business owners, and really, I didn't sell a lot of things, as in terms of you don't go to these networking events to sell things. It's really about partnerships, and so
developing a rapport.
It's developing relationships and partnerships, and I've got some really great partnerships as a result of that. And what I've found very interesting is that one of the networking groups that I'm involved with, which is one that the Business Marketplace, which I think has been a really great for me. But it's introduced me to a whole heap of other people, and so now I'm involved in other networking groups as well.
Fantastic.
And a lot of it, in terms of what I sell in the wireless and security business, is not that relevant. But in terms of where I'm going with the book, for example, and the outsourcing business, there's a lot of opportunity there.
Okay. So, in the book, what sort of things have you got there that are important?
Well, I think, again, and a lot of business owners are probably similar, we get from all of these different people and coaches advice and information about what we should be doing, how we should be doing it. But the real question is when. So when I look over my journey, I've done all of this training and learning, but it's all been pretty haphazard. It's almost like a maze. And so what I've done with my book is put it into a sequential order.
Okay, and what's that sequential order?
Well, it's a 5x5 matrix, and so I've defined 5 pillars of value, and 5 phases that deal with a particular business challenge. So
what are the 5 pillars of value?
So the first one is vision, and it's a 5-step process within vision, and it's I guess probably the first thing before I talk about that is that the intersection of the phase and the pillar, it defines the content of the chapter.
Right.
And it's designed to be done a phase at a time, virtually one chapter at a time.
So you work. It's like a workbook. You can work through it like a workbook.
Well, I'll tell you a little bit about the story, because the original book that I started writing got to about 600 pages.
Right.
And what I realised was that nobody would read it. It was too complicated, too involved, and people don't really learn by reading. And a lot of people don't read. So I thought I'd better write a book about the book. And so I've done that. It was going to be a 130-page book, and it was kind of a series of conversations. The book
series of conversations, yes, and exactly. The book itself is...
It's around about 300 pages.
Yes.
The second edition, which is just about to be released, is just over 300 pages.
This is 251 pages.
Yeah, well, new one's about just under 300.
Right. Okay.
But it's done in a conversational style. It's in fact, I've had one of the people at one of business partners who read the book, cover to cover, he came back to me and said, well, somebody with the IQ of 2 bricks taped together could read the book. So,
With two.
so
That's an apt description.
well, it was the way I wanted to write it, because
So anyone could read it and understand it.
anyone can read it, and it's designed to be quite a light read,
Right.
but it's got a lot. I believe it's got a lot of fairly good content in there. It's applicable, I think, to people who are just starting in business, people who want to get into a business, and people who are actually in business.
Right.
And so, to get back to the pillars, the first pillar is about vision, and I think the very first chapter is a vision for yourself, to really reconnect with what do you want out of the business, what do you want to do for you.
Right.
And that might be the material things, like cars, holidays, freedom, all that type of stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And then the next stages of that vision pillar are about what are you going to do for your team, because at the end of the day, if you want a business that's going to run without you, you're going to need a team. So that's what you're going to do for the team. And the final stage is really what's the change you're going to make in the world, and it's really something I'm very passionate about. It's about having vision for change.
And how many people do you find do actually have a vision for change or making a difference?
I think everybody, a lot of people that I meet, particularly small business owners, have got that idea that they want to do something. Most of them don't do something.
Why is that? What is it that stops them or prevents them from actually going out and making those changes? Is it that they haven't set up their business correctly? Is it their vision isn't the right focus? What is it that's stopping them from doing that?
Well, look, it's going to be a lot of different reasons, and it's going to be different for everybody. But one of the big things, I think, is sometimes it seems so overwhelming, because we tend to focus on what these people who have, like Mother Teresa, who have achieved great things, but not really realising that those great things start with a single small step. And so really, I was at a Mag 7 the other day, and one of the things that Clinton Swain, who was one of the interviewers and speakers there, he said, when you're looking for your vision, you imagine a long corridor where you were walking down. It's got lots of doors, and you go walking down this corridor, and you open the first door, and you look inside and say, "Oh, that's not my vision." You look in the next one, that's not my vision. Third one, let me try that. You go in there, it's not the right one, but eventually you'll find out what it is for you, and we're all different.
Absolutely.
My vision happens to be doing stuff in developing nations. One of my friends wants to go around, and we're going to do this together. He wants to go to homeless people in Melbourne, get them off the street, take them out to a restaurant, give them a good meal, give them a few $100s, and sit down and say, find out what their story is, and can we do something together to help you get back on your feet. That's his vision. And just, I think one of the great things about the world is that there are so many things there that we can do to make a difference.
Absolutely.
But it does start with small steps, and I think if we take away that overwhelm and say just do something very small to start off with, and the positive feedback you get from that is sensational.
Amazing. Yeah. And just those small steps and those small changes eventually turn into big changes, don't they?
Absolutely. I mean, when I first started, I had a goal, and that was in 1995, and I just kept on working on that goal over the years, and it eventually became a vision. I'm at the stage now where I can see absolutely crystal clear where I want to go and, what I want to do, and I know exactly the steps I'm going to take along that journey, and I know I'll achieve it, because that's my focus.
Yes.
I'm not worried about all the other stuff that's going on in the world, because I can make a change in one thing, and that's my focus. And I see so many small business owners who want to do things, and that's part of the journey, I think, that we can all get on.
Okay, so you're saying you're not worried about what's going on in the outside world. You're concentrating on how you want to make changes to the world.
Exactly.
And that's not allowing the environment, the circumstances or the conditions to control you and what you're doing. So the passion comes from within you, so therefore you're not allowing anything else to affect you or stop you from doing what you really want to do and achieve.
Absolutely. And it's not even not allowing, it's just something that's not part of my focus.
Right.
I don't watch the news, I don't read newspapers, anything like that. I've just got the thing that I want to do, and I just have this great belief that if we all did that, we'd make a huge difference. And so the exciting thing I think about being in business now is that there are so many business owners that I connect with see that and want to do that.
Yes, and I think it's creating that awareness of stop watching all the things in the world that are not good and concentrating on looking and making the changes that will help and make a difference. not get involved in all the drama and allow that to affect you.
Yeah, or pick the drama you want to get involved in, whatever that happens to be.
Yeah.
Something for everybody.
Yeah. And who wants to be involved in drama anyway, you know?
And unless you can make the change, that's the thing.
That's right. And you have to have a good focus. You have to have a vision and a focus, and not allow anyone to detract you from that. And you find that some people, some business owners can be influenced by too much of their surroundings, so nothing ever happens. Yeah.
Look, I think once you start on the journey, and once you discover what it is, we all have different things that turn us on, and whatever it is that turns you on, once you start that journey, the feedback you get. Now, look, just as an example, this guy that I talked about before, the tricycle driver.
Yes.
When my admin girl's email came through and I read the story, I was just really, really emotional, and straight away I knew that is where I want to be.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just when you get that sort of feedback, you just realise you're in the right place.
It's the feeling you get, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And you have to act on that feeling. It's sort of, you think about it, and the feelings that come up, then you have to take the action to get the results that you want. Yeah.
And look, as business owners, we're extremely busy, of course, and again, part of the journey with Build to Exit is really about freeing up that time and saying, well, just in the vision area, this final pillar, which is really quite a long way through the whole course, that the Build to Exit, and I'll come to this, is really designed to be done over 12 months and repeated every 12 months. So that pillar, that section of vision for the change you want to make comes quite late in the book, but by the time you get there, a lot of the groundwork is done.
Beautiful. So just give us an idea of what the 5 pillars are in the first instant.
Okay, so let me talk about this. So the second pillar is about mastery.
Right.
A lot of businesses, and I'm certainly guilty of this in my businesses, we did everything for everybody. And so it's really about, it's a journey to first of all discover what you should master, and secondly going through that process of mastering that. The final step in that process is to write a book. So we go through that process. It's probably by the time you get to that point, most of the book will be written as a result of the journey that you've gone through to that point. Yeah. And so finishing off the book will probably be a 30 to 40 hour process to get the book out and published. The next pillar is about team, and the first step in team is really understanding what your strengths and weaknesses are, building on your strengths and understanding who you need to connect to for your weaknesses. We go through a process which has been developed by Roger Hamilton from Entrepreneurs Institute during that, and then we look at outsourcing, partnerships, and end up with, in the final stages of that, looking at how you're going to replace yourself in your business, both from a technical perspective and also from a management perspective. And again, one of the things I'm looking forward to in terms of the management journey is looking at people again who are older and retired but have got great management experience and want to give back, not necessarily on a full-time basis but on a part-time basis. So I've had a part-time general manager for many years, and it's one of the best things I ever did. Just fantastic. He started off working a couple of hours a day, and so that's one of the messages in that
and
section.
you develop a trust and a rapport with them, don't you?
Yes.
And a great understanding of what their skills are, so you can allow them then to do that and do it well. And what you're saying also is that you look at the strengths and weaknesses, and that's something that we have to evaluate within ourselves, look at our strengths and work on those, and allow someone to come in who has the strengths in our weaknesses and do those things.
Absolutely, and in fact we probably don't need to do the internal evaluation. The program that Roger Hamilton has does that for you. So it's a little bit like a DISC or Myers-Briggs type profiling, but for entrepreneurs. And so you go through that. I think it's about $200 to do that, and it'll give you quite a lot of detail about what your strengths are. Your probably 3 major areas. There are 8 areas they look at, and also the areas that you need to connect with others for.
Right. Okay. Your next pillar?
The next pillar is about profit.
Okay.
So it's really about creating streams of recurring income, building equity in the business. So again, it's a 5-stage process to get to that point, which is obviously extremely important in a business, to build the equity.
Well, that's what we start a business for, isn't it? To make a profit, so that we can then have a lifestyle and be able to do the things that we choose to do and not have to do. And build to exit. Build your business so that you can let it run itself and just work in it maybe 2 hours a week.
Yeah.
Not 5.
Well, the thing is that, of course, when you get it to that point, you could sell it if you wanted to.
That's right.
And in my case, it's what would you do if I sold it? Well, I could invest the money elsewhere, but this is a better investment than other investments that I would get. So.
And you know it, and you know it works well, and you can just build on it, keep building on it, and making it even better.
Exactly. So, and again, that's part of the journey. It's designed to be done every 12 months. So, the process. Well, I'll probably talk about that after I talk about the final pillar, which is about branding. So, it's really about, and branding in this instance is again, it's a 5-step process. The culmination of which is really going to be having customers coming looking for you, as opposed to you going out and trying to sell to people.
Right. And this thing about branding, I mean, a lot of people don't really understand what their brand is, or how to work out what their brand is. So in the book, it will give them that information.
Okay, so I'll just go through the pillar because it's a bit about branding and marketing. So the first step in that is really about getting your pitch right. So that is the final step in the first phase, which is the 5-step process. The pitch is really important because it really knows that you understand your target market, you understand the problems you solve for them. It then goes into creating automated sales funnels. So we have got a process for generating leads, automatically generating leads and having them come through a sales funnel. And then we talk about the next step is about branding itself. Now, branding, probably the best way to describe branding, which again is something that was a little bit new to me, it's really about what people say about you when you're not there.
Yes.
That's I think if I could sort of sum it up in a single sentence, that's what a brand means to me.
And it's the recognition. If someone says something about a certain product or service or something like that, you instantly come to mind because your branding is the right branding for you.
Yes.
And they recognise it immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you state your core values, whatever they happen to be, 3 or 4 really key core values. If you were to ask somebody what do you think about that company, and they come up with those 3 or 4 core values, you know that you've got your branding right.
Yes. Yes.
And the final step in that process is getting yourself into the media.
Yes.
Getting publicity.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Love the media.
And the great thing about it is, I've engaged with a lady that Sue Papadoulis from
Yes.
Publicity for Profit. She teaches you how to get into the media without paying anything. And it's not about selling stuff; it's about telling your story and things like that.
Yes. Yes.
Like what I'm doing here.
Actually, might get in contact with her. Now we have to go to another break, and then we will come back. So we'll be back in a moment.